Hello, I'm Turtle, and holy cow, this has been one of the most insane months I have gone through as a game dev. I've learned so much in a short amount of time, but I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a devlog from our dream game, The Tales of Inamia. It'll be open world with many places to explore. A lot happened this month, some stuff more stressful than others. Anyway, enough talking, let's get into it. This month, I went to work on a tutorial sequence, so I started making mountainous terrain. This tutorial will take place in a town called Alarat Village. I think the terrain looks pretty good if you ignore the fact that it's all one color. I was supposed to get that down later this month, but more important things came up. I was also able to get a cool waterfall using a particle system, and I actually have a texture in the river. Looking at the comments of my last video, one of you said that my road looked a little overscaled compared to my characters. I brushed it off, thinking because I was using the bean as my scale, when I actually imported my character, it would look a lot better. So when I finally imported the character, I found out that Community City was actually underscaled. I should have realized that based on the fact that the city was way too small for the mountains, so I panicked and tried changing the scale, but no matter what I did, the scale was all messed up. In hindsight, I should have used my character model to help with the scale in Blender, but I'll fix that later. We haven't even gotten to the main part of this video. Another one in the comments mentioned I should get down the main mechanics for this game. I was already thinking about this, but this comment made me want to do it even more. So thank you, commenter. The first thing I made was the walk. I need to learn blend trees first, as I haven't used them at all. Now looking back, I should have learned it earlier. Blend trees are so useful. I was able to implement a walk and a sprint at the same time. I then tried to make a foot IK system, but it took me forever to get this code, and it doesn't work. I got a little frustrated, so I picked up this package from the Unity asset store. It works pretty good for prototyping, but definitely not for a finished project. I'm going to have to end up making my own IK system later. I quickly created a health system and stamina system that worked pretty well. Also added logic for crouching and a roll. I had to edit the animation a little bit to match the collider with the roll animation, but it works well. Swimming was next. I had to change the rigid body to staying still on water so gravity wouldn't take over and sink the character to the bottom. The system works pretty well, it's just I haven't got the exiting of the water down. Also, the camera is extremely janky. I have to change that later. I then used a blend tree for jumping. This is so I can have an in-place jump and then a long jump as the character speeds up. A side effect of this is that the character bounces a little as he lands. This is probably because of the collider extending too far down, but I haven't tested it yet. The next thing I needed was ladder climbing logic. Sensing where the player was and placing him on the ladder was pretty easy. I used another blend tree to switch between climbing up and climbing down. The problem was getting off the ladder. It looks a little too awkward when the character lands, and they are still climbing on nothing. So I added this climb to top animation, and it gets activated when the player reaches a certain threshold. I do have to change the animation a little so it looks like the character is still touching the ladder, but climbing down the ladder is another story. It's extremely hard to make a character climb down a ladder. I tried reversing the climb to top animation, but a problem arises when it transitions to the climb animation. The character is facing the wrong direction. I realized that I probably won't need to climb down the ladder, so I skipped over it. I decided to finish this month off with creating a full climb system. This was one of the most challenging things I've had to do. I once again used a blend tree, this time a 2D one, to blend between the different climbing stakes. It worked really well. I had originally used this code to detect the slope of an angle, but it evolved over time into this. And in the first test, things ran smoothly, but I did have this problem where I just suddenly phased through walls. I decided to finally record something while I was developing and discover the problem in real time. I'd set up a parent object with the rigid body. In hindsight, this made so much sense as the source of my problem. I got rid of the parent object, added the rigid body to the character, and I quickly changed my code to reflect this. And everything worked smoothly again. Now I had a way to detect an angle and start a climb based on that. But the climb was always at a 90-degree angle, so I had this code to change the rotation of the character based on the slope. The last thing I needed to do was to change the Y rotation based on horizontal movement on the slopes. This was challenging to figure out at first, but with this code right here, I was able to get it working. Thanks for watching. If you want to support me, you could do that by subscribing or buying my other game, The Adventures of Bean Man. My goal for the future of this project is to get all of the main mechanics done, and the tutorial level done by June. This is a lofty goal, but I think I can achieve it. Anyway, that's all. Goodbye.